I'm in Stows with Steve Denning. Hi.
Hi,
Tell us who you are. What do you do?
I'm Steve Denning. I am Australian. I worked in the World Bank for many years. I now write a column for Forbes on radical management. I'm the author of 6 business books on management and leadership storytelling. The most recent book, The Leader's Guide to Radical Management. And I'm here in Stows as part of a broader movement to change the world. Transform the Fortune 500. That's what my personal passion is, and that's what this gathering was about.
And how did it go?
Well, you have to see it as part of the beginning of a global movement, and I've done this before in leadership storytelling, which I started pursuing in 2000 when I'd written a book on that, and pretty much every management that I talked to told me this was the most stupid idea in the world, to think that storytelling could have any possible use in business.
That's a good sign. They tell you you're crazy.
Well, as Einstein said, if an idea is not at first absurd, there is no hope for it. So this was an idea which was truly absurd. And I realized that if I was going to launch this idea around the world, I would need helpers, I would need champions, I would need people who believe in this. So we organized a conference at the Smithsonian, just one conference, but it was brilliant. People loved the speakers. And when it was over, they said, this cannot end here.
This was your storytelling conference.
Right.
Yeah.
This cannot end here. We must continue this. And so a small group got together and said, we will band together and make this happen around the world. And we thought, well, how could these 15, 20 people meeting in Washington, D.C. once a month, how could they possibly change the world? But they kept meeting, and they kept telling stories, and they kept this vision of these were champions who were going to spread this word around the world. And so they wrote books, they held meetings, we held an annual conference, and over time this totally absurd idea became a reality. So that today, when you look at business schools, storytelling is a normal, a conventional part of every leadership course. You look at best-selling books in the world, they're about storytelling. This idea, which was 10 years ago so absurd, is now so obvious that people cannot even remember a time when it wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. And so this is how you launch a global movement. You have a small number of committed people who are determined to make this happen, and it's their determination, their passion, which spreads this word around the world.
Fast forward to Stowe, Switzerland, January 2012.
I knew that to spread this different way of running organizations, we would need helpers, we would need champions, we would need people who believed in this idea. This is not one person who can do this, and this challenge of transforming the Fortune 500 is a huge, huge challenge. So I needed champions. I needed, as I had in storytelling, people who would share this vision and who would help transmit. And so I was delighted that I met Peter Stevens and Franz Rosli and Jürgen Appelow, who shared the same vision, and we said, let us convene a meeting of people who share this view, who are willing to come halfway around the world and launch this movement. And we invited people, and we didn't know whether anyone would come, but in fact 21 people came, and they all came from different backgrounds, different angles, looking at different pieces of this problem, and often not seeing themselves as part of this bigger picture of transforming Fortune 500. But meeting together, they're able to see that their little piece of work was part of this bigger picture, this bigger problem, and they can see themselves as part of this global movement. And so this is the beginning of what I see as an 8-10-year movement to change the world.
Why is this transformation necessary?
Many people don't know that big companies are dying much faster than anyone realized. The rate of return on assets is today 1/4 of what it was in 1965. The life expectancy of Fortune 500, these are the successful companies, it used to be 75 years. 50 years ago, it's now less than 15 years and heading fast towards 5 years. The topple rate of leading companies is accelerating. Executive turnover is accelerating. Only 1 in 5 people is fully engaged in their work. This is not a record of success. This is a record of companies which are basically going down the drain. So the transformation is going to happen anyway. The forces of economics are putting these big old organizations out of business. It will be a very nasty and bloody process if it continues the way it is. It doesn't have to happen that way. But it's not as though we don't know what to happen. We know how to make it happen. And this is about actually getting that message out and transforming those companies so that they don't have to die. They don't have to go out of business. They don't have to fire all their employees. There is another way, a better way to run the organization.
Who are you doing this for?
This is about the people of the world. You look at those 80% of people who are not engaged in their work. They are treading water. They are spending their life trudging through their workday, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year. That is not a life. Creating lives for people is what this is about. Delighting customers, creating engaged employees, creating organizations that actually help the community in which they do their business. This is about creating a better world. We are not in a situation where these organizations are contributing to a better world. They are contributing to a world which, if you read the newspaper every day, is falling apart. Depressed economies all around the world. This way of running organizations is simply not working. We need to run the world in a different way. And it's private sector, which I think is going to lead, but the same thing applies in the public sector. Governments have to transform themselves. The education sector is a big part of the problem. It is being run in the same bureaucratic way that the private sector organizations. That has to change. They have to become part of this transformation so that people in their jobs are creative on a daily basis, that they are contributing innovation and creating delight for their customers.
And how does Shtos factor into that?
This is the beginning of this global movement to launch an army of people, an army of champions who have seen this vision, who realize that there is a better way, who understand that their particular piece of the puzzle is part of this bigger picture, and that we are working together for a common goal. So although we've been working under different labels and different titles and different emphases, we now see ourselves as part of a global movement to achieve the same goal. Articulated what the problem is, developed a deeper understanding of what it is, and have this vision of what this world will look like. And we can now start to work on moving different pieces of it forward so that this transformation takes place. And obviously, transforming the Fortune 500, that's hundreds of millions of people involved in that. This is not going to happen overnight. It's an 8-10-year process. It can happen in a healthy, intelligent, agile, elegant way, or it can happen in a horrible way. And we are here to make it happen in the former and not the latter.
You were one of the organizers of Shtos. It's over. What are your reflections?
Our goal, my goal, I think the goal of the organizers was to create this group of champions, a group of people who truly believed in this, who had a common understanding of what the problem was, and saw themselves as part of this movement to make it happen around the world. And that's what happened. The group had this discussion, developed this common understanding. Although we have different emphases and different titles and different names for what we're doing, we now see ourselves as part of a common goal, a common understanding of what the problem is. And energy emerged from this group to make this happen all around